Good morning. I'm Racha Helwa, Director of the Atlantic Council's empowerME initiative. Very happy today to have with me Jay Collins, Vice Chairman of Public Sector and Banking at Citi, bringing over 30 decades of leadership experience in the nexus of international finance and global policy. Welcome, Jay. Thank you for being with us today.
Glad to be here.
Thank you so much. So the green energy potential in the MENA region remains largely untapped. Only 2% of global investment in renewables over the past 2 decades have been allocated to the region. What is missing to mobilize private capital into the region more efficiently?
I think there are really three things. One is, I think we need to do a better job of creating the enabling environment. And one of the things that we've done in working with the JET-P in a number of countries from South Africa, Indonesia, Vietnam, is for the private sector to lay out a roadmap to a enabled environment that will allow for more investment to happen. And that's particularly important in higher risk, lower credit emerging markets economies, including in the MENA region. Second, that's critical is that a lot of the investors in renewable finance have regulatory or fiduciary responsibilities that primarily keep them in the investment grade zone, meaning that they can't take the kind of emerging markets risk where the sun is strong and the wind blows freely, right? And because so much of the wind and sun or the renewable space is optimized in weaker credit zip codes, we're going to need to mitigate that risk. And there needs to be more work done to mitigate the investor and financial system, particularly the net zero committed financial system and their risk. And the multilateral development banks are a big part of that. But one of the things that I've been saying a lot recently is that as the third item is we can't transition without transmission. And the world needs between now and 2040 to have 50 million miles of new or refurbished grid that would enable the generation to be built and transmitted. And that's a lot. That's 2,000 times around the planet. That is double what we have already. And so not only is the scale of it ginormous, but we have to remember that the one is that no one will fund renewables if the backbone of the infrastructure for transmission isn't built. And two, right now we have total gridlock in the planning and permitting of transmission. So in a lot of developed countries, it can take 3 to 5 years still to get the permitting that's necessary to build the infrastructure. So you can imagine in a lot of Africa, for example, where we need massive amounts of transmission grid infrastructure, we need to accelerate that process because we can't get the generation without it. So there's a lot that has to happen. The good news about this COP is that we have the private sector here that is willing and committed to try and help make this work with policymakers. And as you've seen from the Gulf region, the sovereign wealth funds, the governments that are our hosts, putting extraordinary capital both to catalyze and fund investment in the renewable space.
That's very insightful. Thank you very much, Jay, for being with us today. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
And thank you to the Atlantic Council for all that you're doing in this great cause.
Thank you.